Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. How y'all doing today? This is the Captain's Table, where we are talking about Star Citizen. It's a podcast where I bring people in from the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. And before we get to today's topic, let me introduce your guests. I'm going to start with Cece. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
Cheers. I'm Cece. I run the org Apex People's Liberation Front. New branding.
Nice. I like it. Instead of being criminal, you're the political revolutionaries. That's much better.
Yep. So much better.
Where's your beret?
I have it somewhere. I run a YouTube channel under the same name. Production's now like once a quarter, but stuff does occasionally go up there.
Nice. And Atira, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, I'm Atira Kell. You can find me on YouTube /Atira Kell. That's primarily where I hang out, and I also participate in the podcast with Tree 0311 and Night Cobb called Armchair Admirals and Generals. That's on Tree's channel. Primarily, we focus on military gameplay and how we can improve or make it more realistic or tie it into to what we would perceive as current day experiences of how things should work. And I play all kinds of stuff on my channel. So
okay,
just whatever strikes your fancy.
All right. Well, today, because of the missions update, for those of you who don't know, the Roadmap Roundup added 4 new missions to the progress tracker and 3 new additions to Reputation. Those 4 missions are kind of a heist mission where you go break into Security Point Korea and steal something. Or you break into Security Point Korea and like erase data, like erase gather something and erase like crime stats or something like that. There's another one which is a piracy mission, both legal and illegal. You know, where you stop a ship, disable them, get the cargo from the ship, and return it to another location. There is cargo missions, which is just what it says on the tin. You go pick up cargo at a cargo deck, bring it to your ship, load in your ship, take it off to a low location, and unload it. And lastly, there was the restoration missions, where your job is to restore a ship by using your repair tool to repair the hull and then replacing components and weapons at a new salvage location. So apparently they're updating the salvage yards as well. But that whole addition made me think missions, because missions are one of those things which are such a vital part of Star Citizen, but we often don't hear them talked about a lot, because I think that a lot of people tend to just think of them as an afterthought. So before we get into missions, we're going to talk about missions currently, missions going forward, and in the future, and what their places are. I'm going to start with you, Atira, the question: what are your current thoughts on the missions that we have right now? Goods and bad.
Oh, great. So right now, I think good and bad. I think the bad is most people who are trying to earn currency focus in on a few specific mission types. I think you can run bunkers, you can run bounties. Mm-hmm. And if you're running call to arms, you're running money, you're getting money on the side. And I think a lot of people probably focus in, like we were on today, and we were over Crusader, and we were racing with someone to pull bounty missions. Or not bounty missions, I'm sorry, bunker missions.
Bunker missions.
So that just seems to be where a lot of the emphasis is. It's the best payouts. Now, that said, the good of that is there is a payout. You can earn money, and there's reputation tied to it, and you can climb the ranks and earn lots and lots of money, which is a good thing. But certainly, I think on the bad side, a lot of those non-combat focused missions maybe either take too long to grind because the transit time's involved, and so it really takes a little bit of dedication, or they just don't pay out a great deal over time. So that's kind of where it sits right now, I think, for me.
So it's just imbalanced, too unbalanced, where too much focus on combat.
Well, I mean, and of course you could argue that higher risk for loss translates to higher payouts. And that's true, more or less.
Mhm.
But also, you know, I mean, I do think there, you know, it's a game, right? Not real life. So
Yeah.
maybe there needs to be a little bit more balance in that. And especially since the time's involved. So like for some delivery missions, the transit time is longer than it takes to actually go in and get the thing that you're trying to move. And you're just driving constantly. So
Mhm.
you know, I don't know. They could probably bump that up a little bit so that it's worth the time you spend space trucking around, I think. You know, I don't know. That's my initial thoughts. I'll let CC throw something out there.
CC, agree? What do you think?
On the good side, they do pay really well. All the MMOs, you can get a big ship in probably a week or two,
Mhm.
which, you know, it's better than the months that it takes to get something done in SWTOR. On the bad side is there's no reason to care about what you're doing. It's
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
it's a Skyrim Radiant quest, so
Mhm.
there's no emotional connection. I'm not destroying Crusader for anything more than the little bit of justification I'm trying to write in my own mind, which makes them largely boring when you start looking at what you're doing.
So you're just disconnected with the world when you're doing the missions.
Yeah, it's just completely unplug.
Okay. So let's talk about the coming up missions. The missions, I can go through some of the lists. Let me go through the lists of missions which are on the roadmap, and as well as the missions which are. Let's go with that's coming up in 320. So the release view, we know for sure are coming out in 320, are the retrieve consignment. No, that's actually been pushed back a little bit. We've got, let's see, what else do we have? Salvage cover up. So that's the one where you have you have to kind of scrape a certain amount of hull space to be able to justify, to be able to finish that. And I think that's it, because the other one was removed. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to look through some of this area real quick just to double check. And then for the roadmap update, we see steal evidence, where you steal evidence from Korea, from lockup. Cargo hauling, which is cargo hauling, steal and retrieve cargo, and restoration constructs. So thinking about this, 320 and beyond, 320 into the end of this year, what are your thoughts on those missions going forward? Are you happy? Would you like to know more? What's your general thoughts on some of these ideas? Starting with you, CC.
Think about it. I like all of it. I like the fact that there's more to do, that I don't have to generate and I can make money off of it. And Korea sounds like fun when I'm in a PvP mood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna die there a lot, but it's a lot of fun. Although I'm still acknowledging that it's not going to be much better in narrative sense than what we already have. It's just going to be another Radiant quest that gets generated, but it is ultimately more activities to do, which is good.
Okay. Atira, same question to you. What are your thoughts on these new missions coming up? Good, bad?
I mean, I think any content is good if it works, right? So popping into another reason to go to SPK is always good. That's a every time I go there, I end up getting into some kind of trouble. So, pushing players that way and getting into trouble is good. Giving cargo haulers something to do that is maybe hopefully if they tie rep to this and they're bigger and better missions or more high value missions for the ship they have, and they can actually earn money hauling, boy, that would be great. So, and also it's more realistic, right? Cargo, truck drivers today don't own the cargo. They don't pay for the cargo that they're hauling, right? Somebody puts that in their truck and they just move it, right? They just pay them. So that's good. Still recover. I think that's interesting. I probably would be on the recover side because we do mainly lawful gameplay, but I still think it's pretty great. Restoration.
It's like really basic repair is what it looks like to me.
But it scares me a bit. It's like restore a ship from bow to stern. oh boy, what happened to this ship, and why do I need to show up with my freaking hand tool and like on the like? Oh my gosh, that sounds like very, very tedious. I know that. I mean, I'm into salvage, so I already do hole scraping, and that's
Yeah.
tedious but relaxing. But where do you get the RMC for that? How do you? I mean, is the Vulture like? Does it have like a spew mode where you know? I don't know. I'm a little interested in how they're gonna pull that one off. So, but I'm intrigued on all of them, but it's a little skeptical on restoration.
Let's talk a little bit about reputation because both of you brought this up. We do know that they're going to be adding reputation to the universe beyond new missions, including shop discounts, where if you have good reputations with a certain faction, you get discounts at those shops. Hostility, where if you're friendly or hostile to a faction, then you'll start to have backup, or they'll start to attack you out of nowhere. And of course, sandbox triggers, meaning, say, if you're doing a mission and you just accidentally shoot a Ninetails, or you shoot a Ninetails on the course of that mission, Ninetails will start to dislike you. If you start shooting Crusaders, Crusader will start to dislike you. Or even if you are just out and about and you do something to one of the members of that group, then you'll start having that negative or positive reputation with those various groups. So what are your thoughts on this addition? Do you think this is going to add to missions, or is this going to subtract? Is it going to move people away from those missions and to do more of the sandbox gameplay? Atira?
I mean, I think it's good. Well, shop discounts is always going to push people to do missions, right? So if you're doing missions for Crusader but again, it comes back to what am I buying, right? And is it unique, or is it just more of the same crap that is always for sale, right? And that we were talking about this today. Reputation needs to have gates for equipment. Like today, I wanted the Crusader Morozov armor set. I had everything but the chest. So we got the mission. We went down there. We just waited while the NPCs fought each other and just kind of laughed at the whole process. And then the guy finally died. We killed everybody else in the bunker, well, bad guys, and then we exited with the armor, right? Why is that not behind like tier 4 reputation for Crusader? And once that's done, I can just go buy that. Right. So shop discounts is great unless it applies to ships, and I'm getting like ship discounts so I can buy more ships faster and because that's where a lot of our gameplay kind of revolves around, and we earn ships to do things. I don't think that's that big.
Okay.
Reputation hostility, I think, is great. The thing that I like the most about that is friendly fire thresholds, because I sometimes accidentally shoot guards and then they get mad at me. So I like the threshold because it gives me, in my old eyes, a little bit of buffer. Hopefully I don't murder the guy outright. Right, I just shoot him a couple times and then I'm like, oh, that's a good guy. So
yeah, especially if you're also working for them, like shooting this dude in the arm after you've worked for him for a little bit. Maybe they know that you're not trying to murder them. You know, like this just whoops.
Bit of an accident. Yeah.
How about you, CC? Same question about reputation. Do you think this is going to be encourage people to do more missions, or do you think it's going to be taken away from people, start doing things? Because I mean, this does also include the sandbox triggers. So, do you think people will?
Tira took all of my points.
Sorry, man.
Reputation doesn't really mean much, especially if, discounts. I don't care about 15% off a pistol. Or even ship components, because if you've gotten me picking up your medical beacon, you've come back to a ship that has nothing in it. So that's where all of my stuff's coming from. I would like to definitely see kit locked equipment, reputation locked kit, and that will give me some reason to go grind for someone. But largely nothing burger on my end.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about this. What you because this is something that's come up a lot in some of these discussions. Whenever we talk about missions and stuff like that, it inevitably comes up with stuff that you can get from missions. So if Elliot or any of the crew were to be watching this, what would be some of the suggestions you would have for equipment? Should this equipment just be unique? Should it be overpowered? Like a gun that is +2 damage or whatever, or armor that's better against, you know, energy weapons, or should it just be shiny and cool? You know, like a new armor piece
behind
or
a
something
rep
like that.
gate.
Yeah, behind a rep gate. If we're doing like equipment or stuff that you get behind a rep gate, should it be something that's practical, like something that's I'm going to improve my ability at doing what I'm doing, or should it be something more cosmetic? Is what I'm asking. And I'll start with you on that, CC.
Oh, I'd slut out for some exclusive Ninetales gear.
So just more cosmetic.
I'm all down for cosmetic stuff. I don't really care about overpowered or unique functions.
Atira, same question.
Yeah, I was just waiting to make sure he wasn't going to keep going. Yeah, I kind of agree, but I agree and disagree. I think there are some things like I think it would variation slots, right, available on some armors. Like maybe Ninetales carries more ammo, but maybe Microsoft help me.
Microtech. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yep. The 900-year evolution of Microsoft. Microtech, maybe they have their light, medium, and heavies have the best cold resistance in the game, right?
Yeah.
But maybe you suffer a bit on ammunition slots, right? And as we go into surface-based missions, which CIG, please, for the love of God, give us more surface combat missions that are not locked within a building. That might make a huge difference, right? Because you can stay out longer, you can keep putting pressure on. So that's, it could be something like that.
Okay.
But, in each one might like maybe Hurston stuff has really good radiation protection because, Hurston.
Yeah. It's garbage. It's a garbage.
Yeah, well, the whole place is irradiated. So,
yeah.
You just drop bombs all over the place. So maybe it's really, really good at protecting you from environmentals like that. Maybe weapons just come with different or better, or instead of having to go loot like a 10 power scope or whatever the best one is out there, maybe you could buy a gun and it comes with it, or that opens up for you to purchase so you don't have to go loot it. Right.
Okay.
That might work.
Chat is also bringing up some other things, like for instance, the idea of possibly rep gating heavy weapons, because right now you can't purchase snipers or light machine guns or like say you get good rep with Ninetales, suddenly you can unlocks your ability to purchase their like cache of railguns that you can purchase.
I think absolutely. There's no question.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Ninetales should be, having fun stuff like railguns. Maybe they have more improvised explosives and something as deliberately manufactured that way should be locked for a Crusader. But the idea of locking up more powerful equipment between reps, I'm totally for.
I don't know about that. I think it might just be more expensive. Because you think about it, the Ninetales are a pretty pervasive threat throughout Stanton, right? And they murder a whole bunch of dudes, and they steal a whole bunch of stuff. There's no reason they wouldn't have access. For Ninetales, maybe instead of tier 4 getting a railgun, it's tier 5 on the rep, and maybe it's expensive. But you can still buy it, right? Because they have them in inventory. You just have to be freaking high up in the chain to get it. Whereas maybe it's easier to unlock for a civilized planet.
Crusader is obviously going to be able to go out to whoever makes the railgun and say, I want a production line, 1,000 units a year. They're not going to go sell the Ninetales. So you have to be really high up there.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Have our fun stuff. Maybe like on the equivalent where you get it with a Crusader, they give you like a one-shot grenade launcher on a stick.
This is like the World War II, or no, was it World War II or World War One?
The
rifle grenades. You run with the thing on the end of the stick and you slam it into the tank.
Yeah.
That was a Japanese thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yes. I wish to put that in game right now. You pull out just like a giant spear with a shape chart on the end. You have to run at a tank.
Oh gosh, let's switch gears a little bit because I think we're all in agreement that like equipment and stuff like that is important. Well, how about like just cosmetic things? Like I've talked about this in the past. Would you be okay with things like membership cards for guilds, like for like a bounty hunter guild? If you pass a bounty hunter, they send you a little card, and now you got a little card that you can pull up and like look around down and stuff like that. Even if it had no functionality, or if you work with the CDF, you might get like a little badge or a little medal that says I fought with the CDF at blah blah blah. The little trinkets like that to that. Would that be also okay with y'all, or would you prefer more like cosmetic armor and equipment that you'd actually use?
Well, I'm a
The
loot
amount-
whore.
You're a loot whore, so
Yes.
the answer is yes.
All the things. Go ahead, Cece.
I was just thinking of like all the people I've killed because they have the Tavaran war medals that they're found on a bunker.
Yeah.
I will kill you for that. That and your pants. I'm totally down for it.
So no, keep Apex away from lore expeditions. They will steal all of our medals.
We have a guy who will kill for shoes.
Patches for tactical gear, yeah. I've always thought of like the classic spacer jacket from science fiction, that the leather jacket that has like the big like patches with the rockers on them from like various stations and other things like that. So
but from that perspective, it needs to be, again, and I hate to go back to it, but it's got to be rep gated. So like if you're level 4, you get a little badge that you can put on your leather coat that shows that you're level 4 bounty hunter, or whatever. And they could give us a as you say, a leather coat, right? Because that's the cool way to do it.
Oh yeah.
And it just has a crap ton of hard points on
attachment points,
attachment points, but they're only good for these little patches. You put that on there and you go walk around Invictus and everybody's like, oh, look at all the cool patches he ground out.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
It's
I don't have a problem with it.
Boy Scout merit badges, but for Star Citizen for space games.
Just want to know how like my org so with it is we make our own patches that we give out now.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll be definitely for it in game.
I was going to say, because that's the idea that I came up. The reason why I kind of thought about that is because I know so many orgs that have their own patches that they sell, or they have for their groups, or people have their own jackets, so they have all these sorts of patches on and like badges and stuff like that. So. And chat saying the Air Force bomber jackets, yes, to a degree, but like, for what I'm talking about is like that idea has been transferred over into the classic space and science fiction, sort of like
absolutely,
bounty hunters or truckers.
And
you'll
that
see
was
them
made
in
famous, by the way, by the Army Air Corps.
Yes,
because they came into vogue in World War II when there was no Air Force. Just as a point of order.
All right, well, let's move on to a little bit more, because speaking of like reputation, and we talked a little bit about like have it meaning something, having something that has more meaning something. And when I think of that, I think of things like mission givers. I'll start with you on this one, Cece. Do you think mission givers still have a place in Star Citizen now that we've kind of gone off to these more modular mission setups? Do you think it's still a good idea to have mission givers?
If they can start making narratives in the game, yes.
Okay.
Having a face to a mission gives you a lot of emotional connection and drive to want to do something for them or against them. So then they give you a narrative quest, you start actually having a video game that's compelling to play for more than just shooty blow stuff up.
Tira, same question. Would you think we still have a space in Star Citizen for mission givers?
So I'm gonna reach back a bit because it's actually still on my computer, so I'm not reaching that far. You ever played Star Wars Old Republic?
Yeah.
Right. So every character has an arc, and every planet has an arc, and there's a story told through the planetary arc, and then they weave in your personal story. One of the best MMOs for storytelling that's ever been made. I absolutely think that they need to figure out a way to push those out, to include more of these guys. So like, for instance, like Rudo and Vaughn, they're against each other in the verse, right? You build rep with one, you build negative rep with the other, right? So that's going to feed right into sandbox triggers and reputation hostility, right? So, eventually they need to take the freaking training wheels off in places like, everywhere really. But we'll start with REM hacks, right? So they're going to be elements, and again, we need a few more NPCs floating around that are not derpy as hell, but might be NPCs that are loyal to either Vaughn or Rudo floating around there, and you're just bebopping down, and one of them just starts shooting at you, right? Because you're like
Yeah.
-5 rep with one of them, and he hates your guts. And this is a criminal station, and I got a beef, and I'm going to start a gunfight over it. I mean, if you're not building reputation in that way, I think you're missing out on a lot of gameplay. But the other piece of that is, like, for Miles Eckhart, when you finish that chain, you can't play it again, right?
Yeah. Once you're done, you're done.
So they need to figure out a way for once you spend what is it? It's like 7 missions or something. Once you complete those 7 missions,
Arlington gang. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, either I need a really cool thing at the end of this, right, that says I've completed it, right? Because now it's just I get to blow up an Idris. It's a cool experience, and that's it. It's done, and I can't repeat that experience again this patch. So they need to figure out a way to have those same mission givers continue to provide some type of mission engagement. Yeah, something, right? And then build rep that maybe freaking Eckert has like his own little patch that you put on your little leather coat, or maybe he's got some slick light armor, right? That is nowhere else, right? That's like his little corporation's freaking outfit, whatever. And you unlock that at, like, if you get to level 5. But right now, you play it, you're done, you stop thinking about it. If it works at all. So,
yeah.
So short answer, yes. Long answer, need better rewards and more engagement long term.
More engagement long term. Yeah, because I've always been of the opinion that when it comes to like the storytelling, that the mission givers are important for that storytelling, because there's something that I've known for a bit that seems to be hinted at pretty hard, but we haven't seen it in game yet, which is the potential gang war that's about to happen in Stanton. What I'd love to see, for those who don't know, Ticia Pacheco is the leader of a syndicate, of the biggest syndicate in the Star Citizen universe, called the Otoni Syndicate. And the way it works is they send out little seeds of members, like they recruit members and they send them out to systems, and then it's up to that person to build up their syndicate so they can get control over the system. And once they have relative control over the system, they're invited back to the syndicate as like a head family member. So like they have a vote in the whole syndicate saying and everything like that. And so Ticia was a member of Blackjack Security, and in an accident or in an engagement, she lost both of her eyes. So her eyes had to be replaced with cybernetics. But as part of that process, she got kicked out because she wasn't sufficient. So she got really angry and left to join the Otoni Syndicate. The other thing is the likelihood that Ticia was blinded and killed or hurt by the Ninetails is pretty high because of where she was working. So you've got Ticia, who's trying to take over the Stanton system as part of her criminal enterprise, and Ninetails, who currently control Stanton's system. So if you look at the reputation, like the Ninetails and Ticia are not friends. They hate each other. And with the rise of the Otoni Syndicate, with things like all of the drug missions where you go in and like steal the drugs or blow up the drugs where she tips them off, all of those are Ninetails oriented. All like the prison mission, that's her mission. Her whole thing is like, you only have to release this one specific person because she doesn't want to release all the other prisoners because they might have Ninetails connections. She only cares about her people. Like there's a lot of narrative that CIG is building of this coming confrontation between these two sides, which is interesting because like Ticia has her own backstory and her own like mission chain. And so does like Rudo, who like works in that group. So personally, I think those are very good ways of telling the story of Star Citizen, telling the narrative, of understanding what are the stakes. Because it makes it more interesting than good guy, bad guy. It's like good guys hate each other sometimes, and bad guys hate each other sometimes, and sometimes you're gonna have to pick a side, even inside your like kind of little stuff. So, yeah. So I'm agreeing with all of y'all on that one. Now, going forward, we kind of established generally ideas. I'll start with you in this one, Atira. Going forward with missions, say beyond this, what sort of missions would you like to see in terms of like specific ideas or just general concepts that you'd like to see implemented by CIG?
I have a page of notes.
Go for it. This is what it's for.
Okay. CC, I'm sorry if I take any of your ideas.
You're good.
You'll probably nick all of them.
I'm sorry. So, all right. So what I did to prep for this is I went into game and I pulled out every single mission that I could see.
Mhm.
Right. And then I put together what I know that I can't see, but I know that it's out there either because I've done it or I've seen people do it. And then I tried to create a list and then I said, well, where are the gaps? So you talk about like the current missions, which are for
Mhm.
what a horrible set of missions, right? Right, just a horrible set of missions. Well, you know what else is maintenance? Engineering work. So, how about a new set of maintenance quests that require you to purchase a size 1 or a size 2 component, something that we can lift and move and install, and then you have to travel out to or maybe,
Mhm.
of course, non-lethal bounty hunter missions. That's a big thing, right? Dragging people in, actually using the cryopods or the chair in the back of the Hawk. Under the mercenary tab, I loved Salty Mike's comment today. Just bomb anything.
Give me a bombing mission.
I don't care what it is. Let me drop a bomb. So I have an A1, and I do not have an A2. I could not stomach the cost of the A2. It was outrageous. A1 was in my price range for what I think is a fun bit of gameplay. Yeah, we need something, right? It could be something as simple as go to this outpost and bomb the defenses.
Yeah.
Right. Just give us something that earns money. We fly out there, we throw down some bombs and actually make the damn targets susceptible to being bombed, which is a big thing. So yeah, and then so we can go out and bomb things. Certainly, maybe just go bomb one of those derelict outposts.
Yeah. Kill
Right.
everyone inside. Just
Kill everyone.
Yeah.
Reconnaissance, right? So there's a lot of overlap with the research satellite mission, right? So you go out and you release the little square satellite thing, and it goes
Mhm.
out, and they're like mission complete. Well, you could drop that for recon under mercenary. It could be contested, or you could drop it on the ground near a derelict outpost that will then collect on nine tails in the region.
Mhm.
There's, I think we talked about the infiltration. You called it heist. It's the same thing. Infiltration missions, sneak in, try to avoid being caught, right? And then sneak out. And they showed some of that at CitizenCon. What? It's back when the
2019.
Carrick was releasing.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, infiltration missions, larger scale ground combat. So by that I don't mean not huge, right? We're not talking about like massive fronts, but it would be nice for there to be something for us to do with all these combat ground vehicles. They're going to need to put weather into place or sufficient anti-air area denial capabilities so that we can't fly in. So then we can get in there and fight some larger ground missions. Bunker missions. So the big one on this is evolving bunkers to have nav mesh on the outside. So you got bad guys running around on the outside in addition to turrets, and then you can approach on vehicles, smoke them all, or you could sit on a ridge line and snipe them all. It doesn't really matter how you approach it, but it offers more opportunity. On the potential search mission. So the search mission, all they have is the what is it? It's the green stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just add
the time stuff.
Yeah. Add a Acryloplex, man.
Mm-hmm.
Add Deluthermax.
Yes.
I know it's quantum sensitive, right? But put it someplace close, right? Like you're just flying it to a nearby outpost, or because those are basically 1C SCU stability crates. Let us move those with our hand tractor.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So you just pick up the whole thing, you put it in there on your cargo grid, and away you go because it's powered thing, right? And maybe as long as it's in contact with the grid, it's powered. Oh man, we're getting there. Medical beacons, right? So service beacons. Have NPCs do it, and you got to go in and you got to use the right drug to cure the NPC. So you start to force medics to not just throw a full cocktail out and it just, heals everything and it shoots your drugs up to 50%, right? Make them use the right drug for the right problem. We know that transports for NPC is coming. That's definitely a thing that they could push on with. NPC, but yeah. Gib roads. This is my note. Gib roads for ground vehicle delivery.
Yes.
High weather preventing ships. So that's another one. And then goodness. And then so for pirate gameplay, and this could be pirate or privateer. This is my last line. I'm sorry. Private or privateer, right? So going after pirates could be interdiction specific missions, right? So you got to have a mantis, obviously, and if you don't, you're kind of hosed. But you have a mantis. You go out there. It's a known pirate transit point or cargo transit point for whichever side of the law you're on. You have to interdict in either, right? Kill or capture or whatever, and you get whatever the pirates have. That's the privateer side, right? Privateers get to keep legally all the crap that they take from bad guys, and then the pirates they same thing, right? They have to go back to Grimhex to sell. So I think all of that would be good missions that you could put in that don't require a whole lot of narrative or story driven stuff, but it would give us a lot more content to go out and like fool around with under the missions tab.
Okay.
And I'm done.
Cece, what would you like to see going forward in terms of like future missions and how they're structured and such?
Multiple objective missions that kind of chain together. You think about it, you go into a bunker, you stack 20 bodies, you leave. And that's very video gamey. In the real life, we don't tell you to go kill people for the sake of killing people. So what if you had to go in, first push a small fleet off of that local space into the bunker, have to smoke these guys because they're there, but you're trying to pull a person out or some type of equipment, and then you need to transport that back to another base somewhere else. And all that time you're probably having to fight the whole way there, and then delivering it to this person. Have that kind of chain where you get paid like per like objective. So you beat the small fleet, you get your 5,000, 15,000 for clearing out the bunker. And then once you deliver the package, you get the whole payment of like 60.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Having it dabble across career paths, and if you blow it up with scale too, and then you're going to have to start requiring more people to come in to help maybe get people really good at dogfighting to clear the fleet, and then you load it onto someone who just moves stuff. It helps with multiple players coming together for missions and just making them more fun to do.
Nice. Yeah. I was going to say more voice acting too. I think more voice acting for stuff like that would be good.
Yeah.
I know that earlier today you guys were talking about how like NPCs don't talk.
I mean, I like, me and Cobb just kind of straight up at the same time believe like that the biggest downside for Star Citizen's immersion is like how quiet cities are. And anyone who's been in any place where humans congregate knows that we are loud. We are not subtle. We like even in places that are supposed to be somewhat quiet, you can still hear footsteps, people mumbling, people talking. You hear people crinkling wrappers. Like you're gonna see and hear things like that. But in like go to Lorville Spaceport and turn off the music and just sit there and listen. it's eerily quiet. Like you shouldn't be able to hear the hum of machinery at Orville Spaceport. It's a spaceport. It's an airport, effectively. You should hear nothing but announcements and people talking all the time.
So I do get that in Crusader, though. Every now and again, I'll hear dialogue.
Yeah.
But that is their newest best planet. So
I think what they do is in the background they have the dialogue attached to the background noise instead of it coming from the NPC. So you'll hear them talking, but it's actually the background like information. Like they cheat it effectively.
I see.
But
now I'm depressed. Okay,
it's a step one into getting that done. But like things like, for instance, like that mission chain that you just talked about, CC, having a mission handler who's like, go here and do this. And like for, a professional military or professional like law enforcement, they're very strict. They speak to you and like, this is the objective. We do this, we're doing this. And if you're screwing up, you be like you're taking too much damage or, that sort of like they hand themselves professionally. Whereas if it's a pirate, they're like, screaming and like various insults at you and calling you various things or because it adds more flavor and someone in Crusader security is probably a lot more professional than a UEE Navy grunt in the middle of like the frontier vandal space. He might say every other word is a swear word and has got various different colorful, euphemisms, because that makes you feel like, oh, I'm in this system. I'm here with this person. This person feels like an actual like character that I'm dealing with. Because I think a lot of that it's just voice acting can add a lot, which is why those mission givers I think very cool are very important. But I do like the multi-mission stuff, and I do like all of the suggestions you made.
That's a good idea, the multi-mission stuff. I like that.
I've also liked to see like some inventive ways of things. Like for instance, search and rescue is a great would be a great mission set where you have like say there was an SOS signal that was last discovered here. We don't know where they are, and then you have to find out like based off of their last known location. You have to scan and find out where they are. Arrive at the point, prioritize triage, who's hurt, who's not, get them to the right help, then, do things like repair, add repair missions, like, oh yeah, this dude has got a tier 3 injury, so you need to get him, up and running and maybe get him to a hospital. But the ship itself just needs a repair. You need to swap out some fuses for this thing and you're off. So like the same idea of like multi-mission, but just different parts of gameplay for the same thing, like scanning, medical, and repair or like engineering. So yeah. Anything else? Let's go crazy. And I'll start with you on this, CC. What is your craziest idea for missions? You can be as specific or as general as possible. Give me something off the wall, because I've got an idea, but I want to hear y'all's off the wall idea for missions.
I want to nick the retribution, and if I can get paid for it,
just destroy the biggest ship in the fleet. Yes.
Oh no, it's gonna be mine.
Oh, steal it. Steal it. I thought you said nuke. Nick.
No,
okay, I get it. Steal
I will nuke New York, but that ship is mine.
Oh boy.
Kel, same question. Craziest idea for a mission.
You've that is not an answer I was prepared for. Since Steel Retribution is so good, it just removed my freaking chain of thought. That was really good.
I give you mine if it helps gives you some time.
Yeah, give me yours.
Giant kaiju battle. A giant kaiju emerges from some ocean planet, and you have to take it out before it destroys a city. Godzilla, but on the alien world. Just go crazy.
We're doing Pacific Rim now.
Yes, Pacific Rim Star Citizen style.
Fight.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I still don't have anything great for crazy. I know. Not at that level. I don't know. My creativity bubble has popped. I'm good, but both of those would be amazing.
The other idea I had was this is almost an event style thing, which is like a siege of Lorville sort of thing, where the Nine Tails or some group has locked down Lorville, and your job is to run supplies through the blockade into Lorville, but not like space, but like on ground. Go to a rendezvous location, get a bunch of medical supplies, and release supplies onto transports. And your job is to escort that transport through the lines to get it to Lorville. So you have to fight like Nova tanks and anti-aircraft guns, or like missiles. And
They'd have to let
troops.
you in the city.
Yeah,
Because that actually was running through the back of my mind, is what about taking back a city
yeah,
as like a crazy idea? Is like you and this would be a standing event type of thing, but like
Yeah.
retaking one of the major cities. But the I mean, the only one that really lets us go remotely where we want, and that's not saying a lot, is Crusader,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of open terrain there. But the other cities are so closed off. It would be like being on rails. So they'd have to figure out a way to really let you drive into Gib Roads,
yeah. Gib Roads.
right? You'd have to be able to drive into the city and retake it. I think that would be a great, crazy thing to do. That's within the scale of what they could do, but it would be, you'd have to fight on the ground, and you'd have to be following a road network that leads you to where your objective is.
I like that idea, actually. The like
Especially if
retaking. Good.
they coupled it with the counter side for players.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're trying to retake Lorville, and we're in there trying to do another objective.
And a kaiju comes up and just
Yeah.
smashes the city.
Middle of the mission's like, oh, you need to steal the retribution to blow up kaiju.
Stealing the retribution to blow up the kaiju while two sides are battling it out for Lorville. Perfect.
Yep.
That's actually fantastic, right? Because you could do that, right?
Yeah.
Where maybe the pirates, like if you're Nine Tail aligned, you're trying to prevent. But if you're Vaughn or whatever her name is, the lady that hates Tessia,
Tesia.
you might be actively taking, or in any other criminal element, you might be trying to take advantage of the chaos to steal something or do something else. And so players are running in there doing a totally separate sidebar while legal players are trying to run drugs and kill Nine Tails.
Yeah.
So there would be some interesting interchange there between players.
I'd like that too. I like the idea of having multiple approaches. Where like, yeah, Xenothreat is coming in to attack Stanton, but now it's a great time for T. Pacheco to steal some drugs out from under people's noses, because no one's paying attention. Everyone's paying attention to this distant battle. That means all the forces are pulled away from other locations. So, yeah. All right, y'all, that's going to be the discussion section. So if you did enjoy this, make sure you're hitting that like button, you're subscribing for more content, and hitting that notification bell. And of course, make sure you're checking out Atira Kell on Armchair Admirals and Generals, as well as Atira Kell on YouTube. And check out CC at, what is it? It's Apex Liberation Front now?
Apex People's Liberation Front.
Apex People Liberation
like
Front.
Chinese Communist propaganda.
Yes! The People's Space Force. The People's Army's Space Force.
On both on YouTube. And of course, you can catch us live on Saturdays at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPub. For those of you who are still watching this live, stick around. We'll be doing the question and answer session after this. But for everybody else, thank you for hanging out. And if you want to watch the full thing, I'll have the link right above Atira's head. You can click that link and you'll be able to go watch the full thing with all the questions and answers as well. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
It was good.
Yeah. All right. I'll be right back, chat. We'll be right back.
So CC, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you working? Where are you working? Because you said you're in Intel. You're working. Where are you working?
Out here in Hokkaido, I'm currently with an Air Force as a liaison between the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. military there as a whole and the JSDF.
Ah,
So
okay,
not
cool.
not enlisted anymore. I'm a civilian employee, but
No, that's awesome. Okay. I'm actually currently in a liaison billet for small UAS between the Army and the Navy.
see, that's fun. I
Yeah.
did some of that for O&I, but since I know Chinese, I've been hemmed into working over on that problem set.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure there will be so many opportunities in the next 20
there's
years
so
for
much.
you
There's
to
a lot right now.
for you.
But if I ever wanted to deviate, it's just not gonna happen. Nope, you're staying here. It's a lot of fun, and they basically just allow me to live here in Japan. Yeah.
That is pretty
All right.
awesome, I will say. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they wanted me to do 3 months in DC, and that was the worst time of my life.
So what do you work for the Air Force or do you work for someone else and you just interface with them?
Air Force civilian employee.
Oh, so they wanted you, man, they wanted you to go back to DC?
They wanted me on, because the Navy was doing a big spin-up project, and they asked the Air Force to come help. And so they sent me over for the Chinese problem set there.
I was gonna say, did they buy a bunch of parts that were all labeled in Chinese and son of a
A lot of that happened. A lot of that happened.
who was responsible for this?
No, they wanted me to do defense economics on China. So it was a lot of reading their publications and their research.
Oh yeah.
So it was the most dry work I've ever done. DC is the worst place I've ever lived.
Did you live in DC or did you live in Arlington or whatever?
I was in Suitland, Maryland, so not DC, but still inside the DC beltway.
The Beltway
Sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
I've been up to DC a couple times since being here in Southern Maryland, and it's not my favorite place.
My cousin and his wife work in defense work for software stuff for DC. I haven't heard much about his work, but all I know is that they hate living in DC. They like the job, the pay is great, but they don't like living in DC.
Anyone who likes a DC.
Wow,
people who live in
expensive.
It smelled like rotten eggs the whole time too.
Which is weird. It's so expensive, but it's such a downtrodden city in terms of its economics and everything like that. So,
yeah. Well, but not around the Pentagon and not around where all the people hang out. I didn't realize
it's a tourist city.
You see all the it's that, and it's big government, but it's funny because you see all the movies, right, and all the politicians hang out in these really swank bars that are playing jazz in the background. That shit is real. All of the places I've been to, every last one in DC that's a nice restaurant. I mean, there are a few exceptions, right? If you have an Italian joint or something, but all of the bars, they got soft jazz playing in the background, wood paneling around and you're just like, what the shit? They just filmed the TV show in this place. That's what they did.
You go 40 minutes north of DC to Bethesda, Maryland. Mm-hmm. All multi-million-dollar mansions where all the government people actually live.
Not maybe like congressmen, but
that's what
employees don't get paid enough for a multi-million-dollar mansion.
Oh, okay. Then they live in Alexandria, and
Alexandria.
They're pretty good in Alexandria.
Well, because I always that always confuses me because Bethesda Softworks, the reason why they're called Bethesda Softworks, they're in Bethesda, Maryland. That's where their headquarters is, and it's always how can you be a game developer who lives in Bethesda? That shit is just super swanky or super expensive.
Hearing that they're not from either Texas or California is still weird.
Yeah. No. All right. Y'all ready to go?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah. C Daddy gives the good quote. Russian parts, American parts, all made in Taiwan.
All made in Taiwan! Oh, I can't remember what movie it was from, but I know it's from a movie. And it was
Armageddon.
I remember. Yep. Armageddon, that's right. Yeah. It was so good. Gosh, you just read
the Russian cosmonaut. 90s. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, 1990s. You had the best movies.
Oh, yes. Was that Michael Bay? I think it was Michael Bay. It was a Michael Bay movie.
It was one of his earliest, right?
Yeah. It was one of his big ones. And fun fact, Armageddon was actually produced by Disney. It was a Disney production under their like adult label. So, all right, welcome back to the question and answer session. We're going to be taking questions from the chat. Still here with Atira Kel and Cece. We talked about missions earlier. So these questions are directly from the chat. We only have a couple of them. So feel free to ask more if you need to. But let's just get straight to it. Gin and Tonic asks, CC, should we call you Gree?
Okay. Everyone in the org calls me CC, but I'll give you the lore. Is back when I made my account, there was already someone called CC1004. It's been inactive for like 4 years at that point. And I reached out, offered for him to change his name so I could use it. I offered to buy it from him. Never heard back, so I had to put Gree on. And so you just pick one. I'll respond to both.
All right, that works. Is this live? No, it's pre-recorded. Yep. Night Cobb asks, I'll let Atira answer this one since him and Cobb are super close buddies. So I'm sure this has nothing to do with Atira.
Cobb with the.
What do you guys think is the easiest, most impactful thing they could do to alleviate the repetitive nature of missions in this MMO?
What is the biggest brain question you could ever ask? Gosh. Right now, I'm not sure there is anything. Gosh. I would have to say that is a tough question, right? Because that lends itself to they need to have more story arcs built in so that you have a path to follow and lore to learn as you go. And it needs to be tied into the system, right? And we only have one damn system, so it kind of sucks, right? So it's not like, you can do all the story missions within the scope and scale of a system or even a planet and then move on, right? We're all stuck. So I don't know. I mean, we're not really an MMO yet because, only 100-something people could be on there. But I would say if they could give us something like a planetary, each planet has like a story arc that gives us lore, that gives us something to go and experience and learn about the place, right? And maybe these are one and dones, right? And once you do it, you've done it. But I mean, but there is that. And then the other pieces, I think definitely, when you do the story missions, the Rudo Von Club, you only get to see the guy one time. You only get to interact in person once time.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe fun theory, instead of just using the internet to throw missions at us, right? Once you've met, maybe we have to go back.
Yeah.
Right. And we have not every time, right? Because that would be a trial in and of itself, but maybe like halfway through you go back and you have a meeting, and then at the end you have a meeting, something that kind of gives you more voice acting, like you were saying, more kind of cinematic moments where you're engaging with the world with an NPC. It feels more alive, right? And then I
agree. No, I'm with you on that one, because like
that would feel less repetitive, right? I mean, you're still only going to do those once, but like. I'm going to let you in a secret. That was entirely planned on CIG's part, because we have found the audio files for all of the mission givers. So there's supposed to be several missions. So like Tesia, for instance, you do her intro mission, and then once you work her up with the rep, like this, once you get to the tier 2 rep missions from her, you're supposed to go back and talk with her and like have some sort of interaction with her, and have some be able to talk back and forth and have the good path, bad path. And then if you then you do the mission for her, and then you go through her mission chain, and then so like each like rep level was a different like interaction, and then it will culminate in some big story arc, and then you kind of come back. And that's supposed to be the case for all of the mission givers, because we have audio files for all of their missions or like their events. There's one, I think it's Tesia, where you get drunk. The mission is go out with her to a bar and get drunk. Oh man, all of this sounds amazing.
Yeah. And she
All
kind of
this
lets
sounds
opens
excellent.
up about her background, her parents, and stuff like that. So you can kind of like showing that trust because you're working your way up the organization and stuff like that. It's very GTA inspired in terms of that kind of that sort of.
Yeah, they need to turn all that shit on right now.
Yeah,
Turn
I
it on.
agree.
You know what? You could tell us, hey, 320X, we're going to turn all this shit on. We're going to leave it on for like 10 days and see what happens.
Yeah.
On the PTU. No, not PTU, in the PU. And just let it go and see what happens. That would be amazing.
Cece, same question to you. How would you deal with the repetitive mission problem where like things just become the same old?
Without retreading ground, a diversity of mission types, I guess,
Okay.
is the only other way to do it. And like, especially in the short term, if you more ground missions, more exploratory missions, or areas to go to. Although it's not really changing the fact that you are just doing a one-stop Radiant quest. At least you're going and seeing something new. If they can go in and if maybe not doing NPC narratives, start writing in more environmental storytelling. How did this dude in the cave die that I'm trying to find?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
That's not in the cave. The body's not there. I swear.
I've never
I found him once. I found him
like,
once.
Like, why is he in a cave? Why is he dead? What was the story here? Something that, you don't have to hire a voice actor, you don't have to write dialogue for, but you just get your artist in there and you drop a little bit of scenery that kind of tells something.
I would say contextual clues in that stupid cave mission would also, like, along the way, would be amazing.
Yeah,
like
I've
burned
ran
out
oxygen so many times in there when I first started.
Yeah.
Turn left at the next rock. There's the body.
I would say mission variables. So like bounty hunting mission, go to this place, attack this guy, get the bounty. But like maybe every so often you have in the hopper that mission turns from being go to this person, kill it, to you go to this location and it's an ambush. Like, you're walking right into an ambush. So you never know what you're doing. So it's every so often you can like, oh, this is just simple. But the person goes, oh, I'm a bounty hunter. I'm going to go shoot these things. Pew, 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 pew. I'm getting money. And now they get cocky. They get confident. Now suddenly they jump into a location and there's an Idris there. Or there's, a fleet of constellations or something. Or just like you're going to die. Like your mission target isn't actually there anymore. You're just going to get shot. And then the mission updates and says it's actually over here. So like false flags, those sorts of wrong turn sort of situations to kind of keep things mixed up rather than just always the same thing. Lie to the players. Sometimes your missions should be lying to you and then update.
Critical Threat does that.
Critical Threat does?
Yeah. Sometimes you'll show up and every target there is red. And there's no one to save.
Yeah.
So more of that, absolutely. And that also lends itself to that. Remember the old Nemesis thing where if there's one guy that always gets away and then he starts to hate you and then he pops up and he's always trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So that would fit right in with that idea.
It also fits in with hostility. You're doing missions and suddenly you're doing a bounty hunting mission, so you're pissing off Ninetails, and suddenly they know you're a bounty hunter, so they give you a false bounty. Go kill this guy. Oh, there's no one there. It's just us Ninetails who are very angry at you.
Yeah.
So. All right, let's go to the next question. Akuma Tenshi Kuro asks, once server meshing is working and we have a few systems, could we see a help person flee missions where you set up an NPC to escape active pursuit? What do you think, CC?
It's essentially just a transport mission.
Mm-hmm. Just an illegal transport mission.
Not much more different than move a box. You just need to find a way to get an NPC to walk onto your ship, or
that's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you got to figure out. But then it's no execution on the player's end different than moving a box somewhere else. Maybe you get shot at more, but
what do you think? What do you think, Atira?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally doable. But it's going to have to be, they're going to have to lock down. The first step is VIP travel, right? So once you've locked down VIP travel and getting this rich twit to get on your 890 jump and fly them around a while, right? Then they can start creating, and honestly, they probably should have created lesser missions first and then built up to it, but they didn't. They're going the other way. It's fine.
Yeah.
You could build down and any of those variants. So it could be as simple as flying your Gemini to carry 400 NPCs from point A to point B for a specific, just moving people, right? Because people move. Or it could be all the way down to this, where you fly in with your cutlass and you pick a guy up who's fleeing. It could be illegal group like Crusader, Microtech, Hurston, probably Hurston. Or it could be fleeing illegals because you got in over your head and maybe you got kidnapped and you got away and then they managed to signal you. You go grab them and fly them away and now you take them back home. So either that certainly works. But you gotta, I think VIP travel for NPCs has to be nailed down before that occurs.
Yeah. All that this description is, I think, is VIP travel and smuggling. That's it. And both of those can be legal or illegal. So
yeah,
smuggling sometimes is going through a blockade of people who shouldn't be blockading you, so you can get supplies to a location that desperately needs help. Or sometimes it's getting people who've managed to escape, capture and getting them rescued and getting them out. So,
but it also impacts medical gameplay too, right? Because somebody could crash. You have to go down, and again, we go back to that multi-tier mission that CC was talking about. You got to heal them. Then they go onto your ship. Then you take them to the hospital. So that's only maybe 2 stages, but it all lends itself, right? There's a lot you can do. Once they have NPCs that will walk onto your ship and sit down, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they can do for NPC mission gameplay.
Yeah. Akuma asks, what kind of multi-system mission types, other than the obvious hauling, would y'all like to see? Obviously, like bounty hunting missions. That's an easy multi-system. You're looking for a bounty because right now it's the God marker, but in the future it'll have to be, where is this last known location? Go to that location, scan or establish intel, find out what the person is, and track them down. Because we already know it's going to take longer. So the idea of having it, picking up a bounty for a 1 million UEC bounty on the other side of this, the galaxy, I might take that mission if it's worth the travel, sort of thing. So, how about you, Atira? Any other multi-system mission types?
Multi-system, you mean incorporating various systems in the game?
More like multiple
scanning and all the other stuff.
I think it means more like going from different star systems. So like requiring you to leave a star system and go to another star system.
Well, any combat mission could do that, right? If you build a sufficient reputation in the system you're in as a high-end mercenary or a pro-government contractor, it could open up the option to have someone offer to pay you a crap ton of money to come deal with a problem for them. And I think that's, Boba Fett flew all over the galaxy, right, as a badass bounty hunter, and he went to solve all these problems. That could be any military issue. You could also do like extremely high value box missions, like this box is worth 1 million credits. Take it in your nondescript ship from 2 systems over and deliver it.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of damn risk in there, and it's a lot of effort on your part. But if the payout is sufficient to cover my travel expenses that I will have to pay to fly across 3 systems, then sure, absolutely.
CC, same thought with you. Any multi-system mission types?
To add, you could start building missions that are like require groups.
Yeah.
So let's say you get a mission to go steal a ship out of dry dock, right? But as part of that mission is their defenses are so thick, you need to send a diversion one system over. So I can't think of any right now.
Quit
You
trying
have
to steal the retribution.
okay, yeah, we're stealing the retribution. But to degrade those defenses there, you have to go start shit a system over. So you're sending, 20 people in the group, you're sending 15 of them over just to stack bodies.
Mhm.
And as they're doing that, their crime stat goes up. The people protecting the retribution are getting called over to this new system as QRF or respond to this threat. And then you can go down and try to steal the ship. That's someone, plays into Quanta, but it's also opens up org gameplay that doesn't have to be player generated.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And I like how you tie that into Quanta too, because all of this is contingent on the AI responding to player actions sufficiently. And not just spawning in new security to prevent you from going and taking the retribution, but the security that was there is now gone. And you can, and now you have a shot. I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right. Next question comes from Kuma Tenshi, who says, follow up on the help person flee mission. Could we get a player character voice line that we can activate upon seeing approaching an NPC? Come with me if you want to live. Please, CIG. I'd love that, but I think we need to make sure NPCs can get on board your ship before we start adding voice activations.
Yep. And also copyright.
Yeah.
Come with me if you want to survive this encounter. Yes. Something silly.
Akuma then asks, what are your thoughts on advertising missions where you fly around an event with a digital billboard flashing ads, Goodyear blimp style? CC, what do you think?
I would not be partaking in it. That's boring. However, it's something to do, and there's might be players who will take it. So more content is not bad.
I think it works well for your larger ships. Aside from completely break the existing already broken economy, the Hull C is going to release here in the near future, and you got those giant 32 SCU containers. And I think doesn't the art show big old advertisement size billboard things on the side of it?
Hull C, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, or is it the E? Whatever.
It's the whole C through E, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's another way for cargo runners. Now, granted, if you're flying a Hull C and it's full, you're making a lot of dough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even the residual on a hull that big is a lot of money. But that said, it is still a way to earn for them, because they can then take that advertisement and maybe they have and you could do this with any ship with sufficient enough space, right? But you simply, they can't get the name on a ship to show up right.
Yeah, that's true.
So we do have a problem there, but it does make sense, right? It's a little bit extra cash that a cargo runner or somebody with a larger ship that's going to be transiting through populated areas could have a little section of the hull that is earmarked for that advertisement, and they earn a little scratch. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like a U-Haul truck or any of these larger trucks that have advertisements on the side. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm done with that. The same. I could see an advertising mission where your job is to go to an event and stick around there with your whole C or whatever with a advertisement on it. Though it's such a limited thing, because I don't think there's really many ships that can support stuff like that on them. Yeah. So you'd have to require you a specific ship. And I'm not a big fan of specific ship related missions, because it just seems kind of bad. Like, it seems kind of limiting. So,
right.
I wouldn't be surprised with joke missions. Like, the sign spinners, where like they're trying to get the attention. They like forcing players as a mission to like take a sign and just walk around a landing zone with a sign and show it to a certain number of NPCs.
A sandwich board.
Yeah, the sandwich board and the little arrow pointing where they spin it around and be like, hey, come get your taxes here, kind of stuff.
So for Axis in the chat, I don't think we would allow players to design billboards.
No.
It would not be not safe for work type of stuff, right? It would be CIG controlled. Yeah, no live nudes. What is this in the chat going off right now? Oh my gosh.
All right, next question comes from John Don, who asks, do you think once static server meshing comes in with, quote unquote, with 4.0, do you think they'll have quantum takeover missions? CC.
I don't think they'll come out. No, that kind of mission will come out with the point. It's something they could do, but they've been slow on making new mission types.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we'll see that for quite a while.
Atira?
When you say quantum,
The quantum system. The back end system, the like, you know.
oh, you mean so like capturing someone as associated with that back end economy traffic?
Yeah, effectively that back end economy traffic running the mission system rather than the vice versa.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ever meant to see all of that. So I don't know if it would.
The idea being like, instead of having a random mission show up for insert NPC here for bounty hunting, they would just spawn an NPC who is a criminal that's a quanta data point in this location, and then give you a bounty for that target through the probability volume.
They talked about that last time they did the ISC about quanta, but that feels like a decade in the future, right?
Yeah.
It was fun to watch and learn, and I don't understand a lot of it, but I got the feeling that I'm not going to see it for a long time. I'm just going to file it away under things that I just don't think about.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know I'm not sure that that's realistic for a long time.
I can
have to
see
step
them
away for just 1 second. I'm sorry.
Go for it. I think they might be able to do something like that because of the combat missions. The combat like emergency missions are all powered by quantum now, but I don't think we will ever get all of the missions run by quantum. Like I don't think we'll see the mission giver missions run by quantum. I'm sure they'll just have a hopper where they have a certain set of missions that they'll run from you and that kind of thing. But I think the quantum is probably still a long ways. We have to get quantum across the entire economy. We have to have an economy before we can have the quantum economy take over the missions. We have no economy yet. So I think that is the inevitable goal, but not 4.0. We're probably years after 4.0. At minimum 1 year, but probably more than that for something like that, just because you need to have that quantum economy back end where it's like everything is commodified and they have all that information, which it doesn't look like they have right now. So
yeah, that is the single most important thing to fixing cargo running. Having missions associated with those guys is not a priority.
Northern Trooper asks, would players enjoy missions like space refueling stranded NPCs or contracts for refueling players? I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
People would like to do like search and rescue. They'd love to be able to like pick up NPCs who've been hurt, you know?
Yeah. One of my org mates is obsessed. Yeah.
What's that? What was that, Atira?
Oh, well, one of my org mates he buys all the SAR ships.
Yeah.
That's like what he wants to do. And like when nobody's around and we're not fighting anybody or getting into it, like he wants to run around and save people. That's his whole shtick. So we come up with an excuse to pull out the Gemini to go refuel.
Yeah.
Or so it's silly, right? And there's no reason to do it, but we do it because they have the ship and it's fun.
What do you think, CC?
Obviously, I mean, I have a guy in the org who just likes salvage mishing and hauling, and if I see you can get enjoyment of just moving boxes back and forth, there's going to be people who are going to enjoy the medical stuff too. So
yeah, I 100%. Like, I think a lot of people who are waiting to get into medical or salvage or whatever, all of the different professions for NPC stuff mostly. You know, one of the new missions that's coming up is steal and recover cargo, which is it's basically piracy. And I know people who have been waiting for NPC piracy to be legitimate, like to be actual gameplay before they actually become pirates, because none of them, they don't have any desire to attack other players. They just want to steal shit from NPCs and sell them, you know. So it'll be interesting. I think the answer is there's a lot of missions that people think that's boring. I'm like, there's somebody out there who wants to do that.
There are people out there that want a space farm.
Yeah.
If you know,
they want to do Stardew Valley, the Star Citizen edition, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are people that have pioneers that want to just build houses. I imagine that is mostly automated.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Whatever moves your furniture, right? I think certainly.
We got 2 more questions, y'all. So if you don't ask more questions, we'll be wrapping this up. So it's important to see this. If you have more questions. The next question comes from Access0096, who asks, do you think there would be such a thing as saga missions, where they all kind of interweave with some sort of storytelling, much like the Elder Scrolls series? I think that's what Tiro was talking about, where you have like individual missions or missions like or arcs that deal with specific characters or specific like organizations, and then arcs that deal with entire systems or planets. You can definitely see that. Arcs leading to other arcs and stuff like that. But what do you think, Atira?
I hope so. I mean, absolutely, I hope so. I mean, you go to a new place, right? The mythical 100 systems. You want to spend some time there learning about it, and you don't want to learn about it reading it in a book or the star map, right? You want to go out and live, exist in the world and learn it that way. The only way I mean, yeah, you could drive around and hit all the points of interest and whatever, but you want to do missions, right? So yeah, there needs to be a series of missions that interweave per planet, per system, that tells that story, and that's a saga, right? And it tells the entire story of that system, and it should all be freaking voice acted. It's CIG. Yeah. I know you hate me. It's fine. Hire in the people, do the voice acting, right? I mean, and then we have a reason to hang out in that system and progress. And then instead of just cash, sometimes people do just want like armor things to either buy or unlock, or they actually, that's the reward, right? So there's also little things like that we could put in. So if you complete the entire freaking Hurston saga arc, planetary story arc, maybe you get a Hurston ship skin, right? Or you get, maybe that builds up enough if you spend long enough doing it, enough reputation to now you can unlock their security armor or weapons with specific Hurston skins. I don't know, whatever. And then, it gives you something to drive towards, and it tells you about Hurston.
Yeah. Sissy, same question.
Yeah, I interpreted that as like, are multiple stories going to interweave? And I think if you read the lore as it is, like there's probably going to be a Crusader story arc. There's going to be a Ninetales story arc. They're written posturing against each other. So there should be missions where you have to go, where they convene and their storylines, and then you have to try to complete it, and then there's a win and a fail state. And then your story diverges based on how well you did in that mission. So if you fail, your arc slightly changes. If you win, your faction for your story is slightly in a better position. Whereas everyone who you just beat trying to do the Crusader mission and they failed, now they get a new subplot, or that story splits there. That's how I read it, and that would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that CIG, I talked with Dave Haddock on the Lore Citizen podcast that I haven't done in a while, but where we interviewed him, and that was one of the things that he said that Chris was really wanting to have, is like a living, breathing universe with an MMO, where he's got tired of the MMOs where like you went off and defeat the epic dragon, and then 5 minutes later that dragon is back, and you don't ever feel like you've accomplished anything. And so he wanted to have that sort of thing. So that seems like it's in line with, hey, if enough people back the Ninetales, maybe Crusader is destroyed. Maybe it's no longer a viable, like Orison is gone. You don't see it anymore, or it's overrun, and or maybe if enough people back Crusader, then the Ninetales are gone. They just no longer are a faction, or a very small faction, in that area that have that sort of impact.
remembers the original Titanfall, where its whole campaign was just multiplayer matches, but you got a different story depending on how many missions you won compared to how many you lost.
Yeah.
And that was cool. That gave you a reason to redo all the campaign again, even though you are just doing multiplayer matches.
Yeah.
So that would be great seeing that in SE.
I think it also would give you an opportunity to uncover aspects of these entities that we don't normally know and build some of that lore. Like, why was whatever her name is, I'll never get it right, Tesia, why was she kicked out just because she was less efficient? That was Crusader, right? Is that who you said it was?
Blackjack. It's a private military company, PMC.
Okay, Blackjack. Well, I mean, but there's a million jobs you could do for a private military company that doesn't require them to just fire you outright.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you learn about some darker aspect of them and how they treat their people, or
her own problems with them, that kind of thing.
Or yeah.
Character development, character growth. I want interesting characters. CIG. I want interesting stories and interesting characters.
All of that drives your rep too, right?
Yeah.
So if you do her story arc, or you help her in some way, and you learn about Blackjack, you might, even if you're in good with Blackjack, maybe she sees you as different.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have positive rep with both of them.
Or maybe put you in a moral quandary where you're like, you get to see the dark underside of Blackjack, and then you as a player have to decide, do you want to still do Blackjack missions knowing that they harvest baby owls for like weapon manufacturing or something like that. Like there's some dark side to their whole thing.
All right, CIG, baby owl gun, go.
Hey, Mr. Matt, how you doing, buddy? I got a raid from Celine, and welcome from Celine's stream. We're talking about missions, and so we're doing the question and answer session. All right, so this is a long one. I'm gonna have you answer this question, Atira. So Akuma Tensei Kuro asks, I know I already mentioned this pre-show, but what are y'all's thought? Would you say a Radiant Quest type pull prank, where a rich person wants you to prank a prank pulled from a list of possible models, sometimes against a specific person or a group, usually illegal, sometimes a minor offense, that will always be stupid and silly, with a bonus money for remaining undetected, to become more frequent around triggerfish? So like an infiltration mission, for instance, where you go into place, but instead of stealing, some classified documents, you put like a rubber ducky on their on like the security guy's like console or something like that, or you replace all of the foodstuffs with cheese or something like that. It's just random like stuff that's completely illegal. You're getting paid for it, but it's mostly designed as a screw with a corporate enemy or with another person. What do you think, Atira?
Maybe that's post-release expansion 1, right? I don't know. I don't see a problem with it. Certainly with the heist, which is effectively infiltration, right? There's other variations of sneaky missions where you're going to go in and prank someone and do something. I don't have an issue with that. Maybe it's like a level 1 crime stat and you go pay your fine and it's no big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But or if you have to sneak into a Hurston's like family members' quarters and do that, maybe it's a big deal. Maybe you're going to jail because you just violated the the owners of the planet. I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely some room there to build up a nice quest chain that allows you to do infiltration missions that effectively are just screwing with people. I would hope what they would do though is when the game is out there and everything is done. All right. And we have bases and people can put their bases down. I would like for there to be missions where you have to sneak into player bases and leave like little signs that like another player could create this mission. And it's like, take this tablet. It's going to say like, not safe for work, eat it, whatever, on the tablet. And you have to take that and sneak it in and put it in there, somebody's freaking house or an org base. Right. Now that would be pretty intense because then you could really screw with each other in the verse. That would
Sissy,
be.
same question.
I
Prank
guess.
missions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, I can't envision someone wanting to do that as like often, but as a one-off, there's no harm.
Yeah. I could see stuff like that as like a triggerfish event, like with the red envelopes and stuff like that. It's just something you do as a part of a mission chain for a specific. Because triggerfish is just the in-game version of April Fools. So, but yeah. All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, will mission givers give missions only in that system, or will we see mission givers that take you to a different system? As far as I know, mission givers are for a specific mission or for a specific system. But the idea behind mission givers was that, say you finished, you maxed out Tisha Pacheco's mission line, right? She's the head of the Otoni Syndicate in Stanton. So then she'll send you off to another Otoni Syndicate member, like, hey, you did really well here. I've got my friend in, Cathcart who, or not Cathcart, Castra, who's setting up a new facility out there. You should go over there. You can't do anything else for me here. Go out there and go work for the Otoni Syndicate out there. Or, the advocacy has agents in every system. So being passed between the different agents as a go between once you've reached like max rep or something like that. That was the original concept. I don't know if that's the case or not. What do y'all think about that, Jericho?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a great way to push players beyond their comfort zone of the system that they're in. I saw somebody earlier in the chat, they said something like security incursions into Pyro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect example, right? Go in, F some stuff up, get out, right? You got to spend a lot of time prepping, maybe do some reconnaissance, right? Because it's a intersystem intersystem jump, right? It's a big deal. I don't see why not. And yeah, I think if you max out reputation or you finish a series of, either you finish a plot arc that we had discussed earlier, or you maxed out all your reputation, those could be like triggering events where you get something that says, hey, why don't you pop on over and do something over there? Yeah. And I think it'll be a big thing for like the UEE, especially when you get out on the fringe towards the Van Duel. They are going to be asking you, head to this system. Right,
kill all the Van Duel, come back.
And kill some Van Duel and come back. Or go conduct a reconnaissance and tell me what the state of the duel is in the area and then come back. Right. And I think that is in our future, I think, somewhere for the game, because that's why send your paid for soldiers when you can pay some skeezy contractor to go out and do it for you, some private military guy. Yeah. Right? Pay them a bunch of money to go out and risk their life. And if they die, it's no skin off your nose. It doesn't affect your combat power. So,
yeah. What do you think, CC?
It's natural that quest givers will lead you to new locations.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it in a world building sense, it's going to be difficult for one person to manage with any level of detail multiple systems. So I could see you might go in for a couple fetch quests in a close by system, but when you start building that chain and I don't know, Nexus, your quest giver here in Pyro is going to be like, I can't control what's happening over there with any level of fidelity. I'm going to hand you off to this new person and he's going to take over your missions in this system. And then you do that chain, maybe you go up to a tier and you see a guy who's overseeing both of them, but now he's not really trying to detail a lot of what's happening. So it makes sense. Obviously, they're going to want to push you into new places. From a world building stance, you have to think how much territory and how many people can one person manage. And then, I don't know, probably even past a planet, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well, just in general, the whole kind of progression arc stuff. Just in general, yes. The answer is yes. I think they're pushing you out of the system, but I don't think we'll see one mission giver cover multiple. Okay. I'll start with you on this one, Cece. Akuma Tensei Kuro says, Astropub, go last, please. The question is, what mission would get Paul to use his Redeemer willingly, if perhaps reluctantly? I don't know if y'all know this, but I hate the Redeemer with a fiery passion.
I heard that there's some giant space whale that needs killing.
Okay.
It was pretty good for that.
Tira?
I was gonna say a mission where you could destroy the target using the ship self-destruct, or by ramming it.
Just from Hell's Heart, the end.
I stabbeth thee. That's right. Yep. And then here comes Paul and his Redeemer, and he just slams into it, and boom, it goes up in flames. He's willing to take the rep hit. He doesn't care, and he wins the mission. I think that's the place you'll pull it.
You're all wrong. The answer is never. I will never pull that mission, that ship to do any mission. I'd rather the world burn than me having to use that Redeemer. Axis0096 asks, do you guys think you guys have personal ideas for science like sample collection and such? Equipment needed, like a gray cat sample collector? I mean,
a car sample collector?
You don't need much. Like some sort of handheld scanning device. Go out and scan the soil. Beams. The answer is beams. The answer is beams for everything.
Beams. That's right.
You beam the soil. You beam some planets. You beam some wildlife, and you go home. There we go. Beams. Atira, what do you think?
Oh gosh, science-related tools. Yeah, I mean, eventually they're going to have to come up with something, because that's what explorers do, right? They go off, they explore, they see what the hell's going on on this planet, and they evaluate whether it's safe for colonization or whatever. Look for new chemicals, things that might progress medicine or weapons tech or whatever. So, I mean, really, you're just talking about probably simple things like shovels, beakers, right? I mean, there's only, scanners. You're going to have to be able to take some stuff back to labs, right? Which are on board, your endeavor and do science. So yeah, it's probably a lot of the tools that we have today. I hope it's not beam everything, right? Like pull out my tractor beam and tractor up some dirt, and then pull up my, So yeah, I mean, it's
embrace beam, citizen. Embrace it. Everything is beam. In the future, it's beam.
But yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't have a normal suite of tools that we might have today. It's just that the scanning suites that you're going to use to analyze it are more accessible to the average person, and more advanced, and so you can achieve what you want to achieve with it.
Cece, same question.
So the easiest mission they can do is go to this place, pick up a rock. Obviously, as they figure out what science is going to be, they can dev that out more, but you have to define what the universe is before you can start queuing in on how to define the unknowns of it. But personal equipment, maybe you need specific PPE. This rock has flakes off into toxic particles that you can't breathe in. So you need to wear PPE, and you need to put it in a lead container. And if you don't do that and you stay exposed to it too long, you die.
Okay. Adding some danger
Stalker
to
does that, where you have to put anomalies in lead container, and if you carry it around in your pocket, you die from radiation poisoning. Simple things like that.
So now we're talking about a container that's openable, that's in my backpack, which is a container.
The backpack can be the container.
Lead-lined backpack, yes.
It's got 2 slots in there.
Just because of some people who are trying to ask questions who are newer, just use a little coin icon at the bottom of the Twitch chat. You click the little coin, and one of the options is ask Captain's Table question. You click that and then type your question into the chat, and it'll actually pick it up. And so we still have 6 questions left. Akuma Tensei Kuro asks, do y'all think that the quantum economy simulation buildup might speed up as new tools are built and problem tech, PES, and meshing are solved. I mean, yes, but that's the point. Like, there's no point in doing the quantum economy until there's a system, there's like systems in place that matter, you know, like no one cares about the economy if the economy doesn't exist, but also if the economy is 100 people in a server rather than 1,000 people or, you know, an entire region in the server. It's just kind of hard to make it care. So what do you think, CC?
Obviously, it's kind of the trend as technology gets better, advancements scale exponentially. So unless CIG is totally incompetent and they're putting on a really good facade, I would assume things get easier as they bring tools online.
Tira?
Yes.
Easiest answer.
I know I'm loquacious, but I'll just say yes.
John Don 25 asks, with hacking gameplay and missions, do you think that will require an overhaul of security at landing zones, i.e. hacking scanners so you can smuggle goods, etc.? Yes. And we know that's already the case because they've said that. They needed to they're going to have NPCs be able to tell you you're in a restricted area and the ability to hack doors and hack. They've already said that. So simple answer. Yes. Access asks missions for dealing with alien empires, for or against them. CC.
4.
Naturally 4. I'm a lore guy. I love RPGs. So yeah, get me out there, get me interacting with all this stuff I can learn about, and then let me blow it up. So yes.
What do you think, Atira?
Absolutely. I mean, aside from the, I don't know if they're ever going to let us play as aliens because that kind of takes away some of the mystery, but absolutely. One of the things we've talked about in ammo is where we want to, obviously everybody talks about this. Where do we want to live when the game goes live in 30 years and I'm 70 years old, it'll be fun. And over by the Xi'an, because we all find them pretty freaking cool, right? Cold War era, lots of tension there, kind of new friends. It'd be amazing to like build up rep with an alien species and then be able to gain access either to ship purchase or unique technologies or unique components, weapons, all that stuff that like maybe is just almost impossible to get a hold of anywhere else. But because you live in this stretch of space and you can build up rep with them and execute missions and interface with them a lot, you now build trust and you can get some pretty awesome stuff. So absolutely, yeah.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm a big believer in the third Tavaran War, which is right now there are Tavaran who are outside of the UEE and there are Tavaran inside of the UEE, and they both have a different idea of where their species wants to go. Outside the UEE are like very anti-UEE. They want to kind of reform the old Tavaran ways. And the Tavaran inside the UEE are very much like the old ways got us nearly genocided twice. We need to adapt to the modern day. We need to adapt to living in the UEE and then help kind of craft the UEE to protect us and kind of bring a new way. And I think at some point, both those sides are going to come to a head narratively. So being able to help decide which side's going to come out on top, the pro-UEE or anti-UEE Tavaran forces, would be cool. Let alone the Xi'an, the Banu, even the Vandul, all this cool stuff. Akuma Tensei Kuro asks, could we eventually see missions to protect Fair Chance Act ecosystems? Almost certainly. I'll give the quick lore breakdown, but basically there's the Fair Chance Act is the Star Citizen version of the Prime Directive from Star Trek. It's like to protect developing civilizations from outside influence or developing planets from outside influence. Excuse me. So I think it's an answer. I don't know if y'all have an opinion on that, but
sure.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Blazrat asks, do you think we will always be UEZ citizens, or do you think we'll eventually be able to not only be in particular... okay, let me read this again. Do you think we'll always be UEE citizens, or do you think we will eventually be able to not only be a particular race, but a citizen in an alien's empire? Go ahead, Tira.
Well, you know probably more about this than me, but not everyone is a citizen.
Yeah.
Right? So in the UEE, you're a civilian or a citizen. It's very Starship Troopers, and citizenship is earned via service, right?
Service to the empire. So
Service to the empire.
It can be military, it can be civilian. It's just great services you've done to the empire. It's given to you. So
given that that's already a concept within the game, I guess it's in theory possible, but I don't get it. I mean, you might have a different take on this, but you know, I've watched a lot of this. I don't get the impression that lots of other alien species that we know of are super interested
fond
in
of us.
Well, right. So like this GN are like, okay,
Yeah.
we're just barely friends, right? The duel are going to kill you. The Banu, I don't know that they care enough.
They don't have a concept of citizenship
to give you that level of status, right? And you know, the Tavaran aren't a people anymore. They're citizens of our empire. So I just don't know that there's sufficient space for that to come to fruition, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. CC, do you have any thoughts on it?
I could see you possibly joining a Banu Suli if you're particularly competent and you've built high enough rep. They could be like, you work with us now. That's kind of like how the Banu lore reads, is that they just more respect competence and whatever your focus is. So if you're good at it, I don't see why they couldn't be like, come work for us. The Xi'an, I get, are very speciest, most likely, especially if they're deriving and their influences are like Qing Dynasty China. Those people were not accepting of foreigners.
Yeah.
So I don't see that. Vandul want to kill you. And we know nothing about the Kathrak. We do know, or largely know, that you can lose your citizenship if you go against the interests of the Empire enough. So there's at least that kind of RPG where you can be a citizen or you can be exiled from the Empire.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything y'all said in general. Next question comes from Ranbo X, who asks, do you think CIG will add a Vandul front line in Stanton for now, maybe hidden in the Aaron Halo? Probably not. For those of you who don't know, there's I think it's Virgil is one jump away from Pyro. Like Pyro, it borders on it may not be Virgil, but it's a Vandal system. So there's a Vandal jump point from Pyro into a Vandal system. So if we're gonna get a Vandal front line, it's gonna be there first.
Yeah, they could do like an event storyline where they push into Stanton, and maybe if the player base loses to the Vandal, that becomes the new front.
Yeah,
that's in the future.
I think that would be at launch, right? Like,
way in the future.
When they start progressing the plot of the game and they start shifting lines around the verse. Yeah, I mean, you remember they used to have the last of the
security missions. Yeah,
it was a Vandal ship would pop out of Quantum and attack you.
Yeah,
the Tisa Bannister missions. So there's nothing that says that like a duel might not be able to sneak through, and like you might find one and he might be doing reconnaissance or whatever, but a front probably not.
Yeah, I think it's more likely you'd see a Vandal front in Pyro, but it wouldn't be UEE based. It would be whatever gang is that area.
It'd be like Xenothreat, but with duel.
Yeah, only the people you're backing up are the Xenothreat, because they run Pyro.
Because nobody likes the duel.
Yeah. All right, next question comes from Solar Ace, who asks, do you all expect a sort of stock market in Star Citizen? I believe they said explicitly no, that they do not plan on having a stock market. There is a way you can like speculate on materials, but you have to have those materials to be able to change the market. You're not going to be able to like buy stock in Quantanium, futures or whatever. So no, I don't think there's going to be a stock market. Do y'all think it differently?
That's EVE Online you just
Yeah.
described. I don't. CIG wants to go other places than just the economic fidelity that EVE built its whole game around. So no.
Do you think we'll see a stock market, Tira?
Probably not, no. I would like for them to just make the screens that show up in all the trade hubs reflect current selling prices around the system.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think that would be good enough to help us understand the economy.
All right, got 4 more questions. Vastin asks, there was talk on a 10 for the chairman or ATV that stated the PU we could join the UEE military in some form. Or am I old and not remembering that correctly? You are old and not remembering that correctly. They said specifically you cannot join the UEE military in Star Citizen. That's designed for Squadron 42. Squadron 42 is playing as a UEE military, UEE Navy pilot is your specific role in Squadron 42, and you cannot join the military in Star Citizen, but you can support the military through contractor missions. So that was the whole thing.
And they've talked about, right, like in Squadron, if you complete it in a certain way, it's supposed to unlock the ability within the PU, or it will be, Persistent Universe, so the PU, to purchase, they've effectively said like rep-gated things. Like if you complete it in a specific way, you can purchase an F8C in the game.
I think they said that they wanted Squadron 42 to be like your Star Citizen character. So as you complete the campaign, when you play Star Citizen, now you're a citizen because you're a veteran.
Yeah.
And then you unlock the F8 to buy and probably other things.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Northern Trooper asks, with regards to Arena Commander, do you think we'll get a Zeus-style mission creator for players by players? For those of you who don't know what Zeus is, it's the system in Arma 3 that allows you to effectively be a game master where you can populate objectives and enemy combatants on the fly. You can just spawn them in, and it lets you kind of like play the overarching bad guy against the players and kind of mess with them if you want to.
Hit me with lightning bolts 12 times in a match. I don't see that at all.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think we'll see custom maps or missions at some point, but probably not until later down the line.
I could see like a private lobby where you could set limited parameters, but no game master level.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that. Especially not like map building and the kind of thing. Akuma Tensei asks, if the CIG fairy hands you a magic wand and you get to magically introduce CIG to create one crazy idea for the next single-player Star Citizen game after Squadron 42 Episode 3, what would you have them make? The Star Citizen version of Black Flag. Of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Assassin's Creed Black Flag?
Oh, okay. You cut out for me.
Yes, the Star Citizen version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where you're a pirate, and you have to deal with like the narrative consequences of being a pirate and the different branching storylines and who you support and who you don't do well. Like Star Citizen Pirate Edition. That would be my stake. CC, what would you like to see CIG tackle in terms of a single player experience?
I gotta think about this. I only have one crazy idea a day.
Yeah, and yours was great. I still haven't really.
Yeah, I used all of my brain power on that.
Get in, loser! We're stealing the retribution. Atira,
I would.
I would go ahead, CC.
I was gonna say something very open world, very like politically heavy RPG. So if they can make a Star Citizen style expanse RPG game.
Ooh.
I'd be game for that.
It's your.
Well, there could be two things, but the one I'll go with is tell something completely foreign and introduce us to something completely foreign. So let it be a single player campaign where you're the Kurthak
Oh.
and you fight the Xi'an.
There you
All
go.
the way up through the Seminole mission would be that big assassination thing.
Of
that
the
they
entire
did.
house. Yeah, the entire
Yeah.
Foro house. Yeah.
Yeah. And that would be your Seminole. Because, right, that's like, I mean, God, we don't even know
Yeah.
what they look like. We don't know anything about them. And so, I mean, I assume a player will try to end run the Xi'an at some point pretty early in the game and get pictures of the Kurthak. However, let's assume that's not possible for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun to then instead explore a part of the game that is so foreign to what we currently know. That would be fun.
I like that idea. The other ideas, like, playing historical missions, like the Tavaran Wars, play through the Tavaran Wars, or
You could be Mezer.
yeah, there we go.
You're
Empire's
Mezer.
Ending. Yeah.
You follow his climb to power and all of his bad decision making, and
like an RPG mixed with like a tactical, like XCOM game where you have to control players to control your troops to go conquer the Tavaran and make bad decisions on who you support and who you're backing for like various things. Yeah, there we go. All right. The last question is from Dimako, who asks, when will CIG make these special events a random event not announced for 3 days? It's a good question. I think when they have missions tied into the quantum system or some way of spawning these missions to track them, which I think is the quantum system. But CC, what do you think?
Yeah, it's got to depend on Quanta working.
Tira?
that, and I think when the servers can handle it.
Very good point.
Because the one thing that everybody everybody hates Xeno that plays the game routinely, because the moment Xeno kicks off, the whole server just lights on
Dumps.
fire. Yeah. And yes, the Quanta need to help trigger that. And we as players probably need to understand what the triggers are for us to do to trigger the event. So if somebody wants to do the event, we then need to know how to trigger it. But at the same time, like if some asshole is just triggering Xeno every day on every, on the server, you're going to get upset, right? Because it's going to kill the server. So, when they are confident that the servers can take it, and also multiple events, because, right, like, with enough players on the server, you could, in theory, kick off Xeno. I can't remember what the Crusader one is called. Lockdown. What is the Crusader
Siege of
one?
Orison?
Siege of Orison, all at the same time. Oh my gosh, you just 30K instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and players are going to do that. Players are going to try actively and do that. So the server's got to be able to handle more than probably 3 of those things running.
God, I'm imagining Siege of Orison, Xeno Threat, Ninetales Lockdown, and Jumptown all happening at the same time. The madness that would happen because of that.
It'd be amazing, but I mean, you'd have to have 1,000 people.
Yeah, easy.
Well, no, you'd have to have 400.
Yeah, you have to have more than 100 that we have now.
Yeah.
And the problem right now is that they even reduce the population of the servers when they run events because they know the number of players chugs the servers. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the last question. Thank you so much to Atira and CC for joining us. Again, make sure you're checking out Atira Kell on YouTube. And, of course, Tree's podcast, Armchair Admirals and Generals, where you can see Atira and
Night Cobb and a whole bunch of other military guys that we're slowly starting to integrate and bring in.
You're going to have to drag in CC at some point.
Yeah.
Get his perspective. And, of course, you check out, okay, I could do this right. The Apex People's Liberation Army, right?
Front.
So Apex People's Front for some spicy non-legal gameplay.
It's a lot of like theory crafting and breaking down military structures right now.
I look forward to your future work with the United Workers of United, oh gosh, what is it? United Workers Union of Hurston, as we've joked them. The Uwu girls, Uwu cat girls, and their attempts to overthrow the Hurstons. We look forward to your participation on that eventual.
It'll be a glorious revolution, man.
I will say, Cece, I watched one of your videos where you discussed littorals in space. That was an interesting look.
What is
so littoral is shallow. It's any battlefield that consists of an ocean and a land setting in this where they can mutually affect each other. So if you have an island, an island. Well, now they're saying that this can extend to like 50 nautical miles off the coast and inland. But as long as like an island, you put your Marines on there, and then they're setting up targets for ships to launch their missiles, and they're trying to raid other command posts and islands. That's littoral theater. And I took that into Star Citizen, which is your littorals are going to be your space stations, and they're going to be any landing points immediately on a planet that you need your Navy support. And trying to build a littoral combat group in Star Citizen. I have something. Nice. I have the script for Recce, to make a Recce unit.
I know Recce, so yeah.
I got a lot. I got a lot of them. I just need to find time to do them.
So yeah, go check that out at the Apex People's Liberation Front channel on YouTube. Check them out. I'll have the links in the description as well for YouTube. I'll have those kind of just their tagline, their at names, so you can their username, so you can click it and it'll take you to those YouTube pages. And as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you are liking the video as well. We do this live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive on Saturdays. We're bringing lots of people. Next week, maybe a week off for me, just because it's right before I have to go back to work. So I might take some time to enjoy myself. And since CIG is a little slow coming back with information, might take a little bit of time off. But again, thank you, Tira. Thank you, CC. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. All right. I have to wait for YouTube to kind of end, but I am going to definitely switch to raiding. Let's going to go raid somebody. Do you have anyone specifically that you want to raid, y'all? Because I can target them on Twitch. If not, I have a friend of mine, Loken. It's his